Santa Barbara is a truly exceptional grape growing region for Pinot Noir. We have two very unique areas that are very cool and have a lot of marine influence, with daily fog and very extreme breezes that blow in off the Pacific Ocean. These two areas are Santa Rita Hills and the Santa Maria Valley. At Fess Parker, we employ some whole cluster fermentation. It's where the cluster itself is actually put into the fermenter, this being a very small 1.5 ton fermenter, the cluster being intact. So where the berries are still intact with the stem. And then the rest of the grapes are actually destemmed and then put into the fermenter on top of the intact clusters. So we're typically doing around 20 to 33% whole cluster fermentation in our Pinot Noir. Right now this Pinot Noir is actually on cold soak, and we're just letting it extract color and from the skins. And along with the color comes some tannin and some beautiful fruit flavors.
The little bit of Pinot Noir that we did have an opportunity to work with back in the early 90s came from bc.vc vineyards, very highly regarded, well-known vineyard. The Miller family, they were kind enough to give us access to a very small amount of Pinot Noir. In probably 92 or 93, we started to have a dialogue with the Miller family about possibly planting some acreage for us. So I think it was probably sometime maybe around 93 that we actually developed a block of Pinot Noir out there specifically for the Parkers. It was actually our first opportunity to work with anything other than the Pommard clone, which was all that was available to us early on. So we had Pommard and 2A, and that was really for us sort of the very beginning of kind of the sort of opening the horizons for Pinot Noir for the Parker program. Shortly thereafter, we actually bought Ashley's vineyard and even further kind of developed a spectrum of different Pinot Noir clonal selections to add to the palette. Boy, I'll tell you what, from a winemaker's perspective, it's interesting to go from having just one clone from one site to today probably no less than a half a dozen clones from probably a half a dozen different Pinot Noir sites. It's been a fun process. So Pinot Noir, being one of my favorite varieties to consume, is also, somebody once said it's the holy grail from a winemaker's perspective. Santa Barbara County is an interesting area for Pinot Noir. It's a very diverse growing region. We can grow and produce kind of an interesting spectrum of flavors in Pinot Noir here. But it's a fun grape to work with. Never manhandle Pinot Noir. You basically, there are a lot of great varieties that you can get in sort of push them one way or the other. Pinot Noir is its own sort of, it does its own thing, and the more you try and manipulate it, the more you try and push it in a direction, the more it pushes back. And I think it took us a long time to figure that out, frankly. I mean, I'm kind of a big bruiser of a guy, and you figure you're going to get in there and you're going to craft this wine and make it exactly, you know, what it is that you want it to be, and then you quickly realize, well, frankly, I wish I could say I quickly realized that it took some time. You realize that these stylistic differences really come more through sort of the location of the vineyards and the clonal selections, and you can't kind of, through winemaking practices, push it one way or another. You have to do it, you know, through sort of the farming into the spectrum, and you know, to a certain extent, judicious use of oak and different yeast strains, but it definitely does its own thing. And that's kind of one of the neat things about Pinot Noirs, you know, it is what it is.